Let's now get to News 6 morning anchor Justin Warmoth with the Weekly.
This is the Weekly on ClickOrlando.com with Justin Warmoth.
The halfway point has been reached in the trial of Noor Salman.
I really don't think the government has been able to establish that there's a reason that she should have known that this was going on here.
The government resting its case Thursday, and tomorrow, Salman's defense team will begin calling their witnesses.
Is she going to take the stand? Is Noor Salman going to take the stand in this case?
This morning, the Weekly is breaking down the government's case and previewing what's in store for the defense.
I think this case really is going to hinge on if the jury believes that she said the words that are in that statement written by the FBI, it's game over for her.
Good morning and welcome to the Weekly. I'm Justin Warmoth. The trial of Noor Salman is getting ready to enter its fourth week, and the government has presented some eye-opening evidence as they try to prove Salman knew her husband's plans to attack the Pulse nightclub. We have several stories up right now on ClickOrlando.com/Noor Salman trial, detailing what's been happening in court every step of the way, and that includes newly released surveillance videos showing Omar Mateen buying weapons and casing possible targets prior to the shooting. In a moment, News 6 legal analyst Whitney Boan will give her thoughts on the first half of the trial. But first, News 6 investigator Mike DeForest walks us through the days leading up to the June 2016 attack.
May 21st, 2016, 3 weeks before the Pulse nightclub attack, surveillance cameras at Disney Springs capture Noor Salman, Omar Mateen, and their 3-year-old son buying a toy. While at Disney, records show Mateen pulled up an article on his cell phone about ISIS calling for attacks in the U.S. over the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. May 31st, Salman drives the family's car to a Walmart near their home in Fort Pierce. Mateen is seen buying ammunition for the gun he uses for his job as a security guard. Salman joins them with another toy for their son. June 4th, Mateen is by himself at a Port St. Lucie gun store as he picks out a Sig Sauer MCX rifle. Later that night, pings on cell phone towers show Mateen and Salman traveling from Port St. Lucie to West Palm Beach, where prosecutors say they cased the City Place entertainment complex. At 2 o'clock in the morning, the family stopped at a convenience store. At nearly 5 o'clock in the morning, they were still on the road heading home. 7 hours later, Mateen returns to the gun store to buy a Glock 9mm handgun. June 8th, cell phone pings show Mateen and Salman driving from Fort Pierce to Orlando. While at Bass Pro Shops, Mateen buys 3 magazines for his rifle along with some candy. The couple then goes to Florida Mall, ringing up purchases prosecutors say they could not afford at Victoria's Secret, Kay Jewelers, and Michael Kors. Next stop, Disney Springs again. As Salman and her son were in a store, cameras captured Mateen walking around outside by himself. At 10:29 that night, a receipt shows the family ate dinner at King O Falafel restaurant in Kissimmee. It was after this meal when Salman told the FBI that she and Mateen drove around the Pulse nightclub for about 20 minutes. But FBI agents now admit that would have been practically impossible since Mateen visited a mosque in Kissimmee about 45 minutes after buying dinner. There was not enough time for the couple to make the round trip, calling into question the reliability of Salman's statement. June 9th, Mateen goes to a gun range and practices firing the rifle he would use 3 days later to murder clubgoers at Pulse. June 11th, less than 4 hours before the attack, Mateen is seen wandering around Disney Springs. Cameras reveal there is a large presence of Orange County Sheriff's deputies. Cell phone data indicates Mateen then drives up I-4 towards downtown, hanging out around Eve Orlando nightclub. Around 1:30 in the morning, Mateen heads down to Pulse nightclub, where he would open fire just a half hour later.
All right, Whitney and Mike, thank you so much for being here this morning. So we just saw that piece that, Mike, you put together. Certainly is startling to see all the actions and what took place. What does this boil down to, this case, in your eyes?
It just seems to me, having watched the testimony and the conclusion of the government's case, that the jury either believes the statement that she gave to the FBI and believes the FBI agents who wrote that down, because again, this was not recorded on audio or video. If they believe that those statements are genuine, then a lot of what you just saw there, the surveillance video of her shopping with him, takes on an air of suspicion, and the question she had to, did she know what was going on? On the flip side, if the jury trips over that issue of her telling the FBI that she made this trip to Pulse when the FBI even says that did not happen, then all those other components aren't so suspicious, and perhaps she just had no idea what was going on.
It's hard to believe that that could be a true statement, though, Whitney. I mean, how couldn't you know something was transpiring here, right? I mean, what's your opinion on that?
I really don't think the government has been able to establish that there's a reason that she should have known that this was going on here. Maybe she should have thought something was going on. I don't know what that is, though, and I don't think the government's proven it. And the defense has argued that now in their judgment of acquittal motion, saying the same in terms of, even if you want to look at it in the best light for the government, Judge, they haven't brought it. They haven't showed us that she knew that this was going to happen. And this could include any act of terrorism, you know, in support of ISIS. It isn't there. I think that also the issue is she's kind of simple, and everybody said that, and she's naive, and she was sheltered, and she didn't work outside the home. And so I think that all of those factors, like Mike said, are going to play into whether or not they even believe that she was capable of saying some of the things that the FBI said she said, or that's a stretch in terms of what they've marked down and written down and have repeated that they believe that she said.
You know, there was a lot to digest with the government, but your overall take on them is that they maybe didn't do a great job, or they didn't do a great job of proving that she was aiding and abetting her husband.
Well, I think these are excellent attorneys, the prosecutors, no doubt. These are very experienced, high-level prosecutors. But when you're a lawyer on either side of a criminal case, the one thing you can't do is change the facts. You know, so I think that they've done a very good job with what they have. I just think that while there's enough here to be questioned, as you pointed out, how could somebody not know? There are questions, and it's the government's burden to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt, and there are enough questions here after their presentation that I think a jury could find reasonable doubt.
I was thinking about it later that say everybody was on the up and up, and these words literally did come out of Noor Salman's mouth, and the FBI wrote them, whether Noor Salman meant to say those words or not. But now you've got the FBI and you've got federal prosecutors looking at this statement. How do they not file charges when you've got a woman saying, I knew that this terrorist attack was going to happen, and I did these things, no matter how minor, that may have helped him in that? So it makes sense, I would imagine, that they took this case to trial, but like you say, they just have to deal with the cards, the prosecutors deal with the cards that they're dealt.
I really believe this was a case where they were kind of damned if they did and damned if they didn't. In other words, the prosecutors, it would have been inappropriate probably for them not to have pursued some prosecution when they have these statements in front of them, even if they had some question in terms of, is this verbatim what she said? Is this all true or not? But at the same time, you know, I think it's a very weak case. I think that, you know, what happened in court yesterday, too, in terms of their presenting things to the judge, in terms of her saying she went with him, Omar Mateen, to Pulse nightclub when that didn't actually happen. You know, that's problematic, and that's certainly not going to lend in their favor in the long run in front of the jury or even with the judge. But you know, it'll be interesting to see what the jury decides with this. That's who ultimately is going to make the decision here.
And that jury will be hearing from the defense tomorrow morning. Coming up, Mike and Whitney will preview what's to come for Salman's attorneys as they try to prove their client is innocent. Keep it here.